Okay, hello. This is number 6 on the video series that I am doing, covering the concepts and ideas and stories and what have you that I have coming out of here. And I cataloged all of these stories and concepts last summer. I've been full-time in school since then, so I haven't developed them other than what they were at the summer, so they're kind of frozen in time. Anyways, this is number 6 on the video series here on my YouTube channel, and we moved from Blood Moon Freedom down to Creature Cookbook because both of those together took about 8 or 9 minutes, and I'm moving back up to Citizen Jane. Now, Citizen Jane is a I don't know how the expression. I can't think of the expression. It's a work of love. I mean, I have really put a lot into Citizen Jane and what it is, and I've been thinking heavily about it, how to do it right, how to take this idea I have, this concept, and how to practically and literally put it on the page, first of all, and then once it's on the page, how to work it and to make it even in a screenplay or in a novel or in anything like that. So this is the best I have right now. I'll read the tag that I have, and then I'll talk about it a little bit and read some more about the treatment and that kind of thing. A local vigilante becomes wanted by the police. Why? Because she's not a licensed vigilante. In the near future, lawlessness reigns, and the police and other law enforcement agencies need help. All you need to do is take a test, get your GNA registered, and not use a gun. The not using a gun aspect makes these vigilantes get creative. What does that mean? Superheroes. After Jane gets her license, she's asked by the most popular world-known superhero team in the nation to join. Long story short, she does. John Ross, the most well-known of the vigilantes/superheroes and leader of the super team, personally invites Jane to join along. And the backlog: when Jane was 10, which is 10 years ago in the story, her parents were slain and she was sadly raped and battered by the assailant. Totally tragic, but it has to be this intense, it has to be this tragic, only to be left alive while her parents were both murdered. Experiencing survivor's guilt, she decided to dedicate herself to the law. So this isn't really a light-hearted thing. I was kind of saying it like it was, but it's not. I mean, it's very serious, and the crime is just going crazy, and that's an example of how the crime is rampant and why they came up with the vigilante laws. She trained for 10 years intensely with multiple mixed martial arts, plus the art of war, strategy, logic, psychology, and yoga. She planned to put all of this to use. After the first week on the job, she knew that regular law enforcement wouldn't work. One day, at her favorite coffee shop, an armed man comes to rob the place. He had been scoping it out for weeks, and today was his day of attack. Of course, he had no way of knowing about Jane. Okay, and again, I'm cutting and pasting and kind of working things. I go straight to some dialogue at the end of the movie. Well, yeah, I got a bunch of dialogue. That's kind of cool. But this is the continuing from what I was reading. Sarah slept in for the next morning. She didn't have any classes due to it being Saturday. Of course, Sarah, this is the Citizen Jane, sleeping in is 8 a.m. After she woke, she immediately put on her jogging outfit, strapped on her sneakers, and left the apartment. She didn't see Gail, her roommate, and assumed that she was still sleeping in. Sarah and Gail had completely different schedules. Gail was a late night person, and Sarah was an early riser. She had not always been such, but with her training, boot camp, and the applied self-discipline, she had changed. As she started on her morning run, Sarah started to contemplate what her roommate had suggested the previous day. It hadn't occurred to her to get a vigilante license, but it might be a good idea. It had only been 10 years since the Federal Deputy Response Law, or the FDRL, was passed. All different types of people started showing up with this new law in place. Some of them wore elaborate costumes, custom automobiles, and even some with wild abilities. She had read an article about how many of the newly now legal vigilantes had already had special abilities and was doing work in a vigilante way. She had seen pictures and short video blurbs about some of these people, but never in person. And of course it goes into genetic gene splicing and that kind of thing. One of the nighttime news shows had a special on one of these particular people named of John Ross. She remembered several things about this Ross character. One of which was that he seemed extremely confident. She couldn't remember exactly what he did or didn't do, just only that he was the leader of a vigilante group. They were the Watchers, the Guardians, or something like that. She couldn't remember. She really didn't watch the news or read the newspaper that often. She felt as though there was plenty of life to get her down, and she didn't need to hear about all the sensationalized garbage they show on television. Long story short, there's room for a sequel. She basically interacts with this super team, and they have a counter team of vigilantes who they end up fighting. Of course, it's like the Avengers versus the Defenders or something like that. You know, it's these two vigilante teams. They end up hating each other, and there actually are super villains and crazy psychotics who basically are being run by a center figure who has a mask and a cape and all this other stuff, and he's totally in charge, and he seems to be almost identical power-wise to John Ross, except he's got a lot more tech. And Ross is basically just your Captain America type guy, the Black Panther, Captain America type person. And so anyways, Sarah and Ross end up almost falling in love completely. But at the very end of the final battle scene with this group, she confronts the bad guys. Okay, I'm losing focus here. She confronts the ultimate bad villain and tears off his mask, and lo and behold, it's John Ross. And she's heartbroken, and she's disturbed, and she is frustrated and angry and a little burnt out, actually. Diet Pepsi, always Diet Pepsi. And a little burnt out. Well, she ends up using a gun, and of course, which is illegal, and she's very anti-gun, she's very anti-death, anti-murder, and that's kind of her thing during the whole movie, is that she's very anti that, and doesn't even like violence, but likes to help the police and get things done and protect the innocent. So eventually, sad story, long story short, she ends up using the gun, she kills Ross, and that's the end of the flick. Very, very little follow through, if any, after she shoots Ross, like a gunshot, and then that's the end of the movie. Maybe even not knowing if she kills Ross or not. I'm really thirsty. So, that is Citizen Jane. Now that I kind of drug that out, lost a bunch of energy, lost focus, so on and so forth, making it extremely boring, which I don't think it is, personally. I like it a lot. I like Citizen Jane. I think she's incredible. Citizen Jane, by the way, is the name she's given by the local newspaper. And I think she's an incredible hero. She's a patriot to the United States, and she is someone who deserves a better life than the one she's been given. So that's it. Citizen Jane, what we're going to cover next in the next one is Harry and his zombie friend, otherwise known as Zombie Justice. And that will be, see, this is number 6. That will be number 7. So go ahead after this one's over. Start number 7, the Harry and his zombie friend, Zombie Justice.